Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Amin, amin, ya Rabbil Alamin. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We are continuing with our class, and we are on the sixth verse, right, of Aqidatul Awam, or of the Sharah Jalal Afham by Al Habib Muhammad Al Alawi Al Maliki. Right, and the Aqidah is by Al Imam Ahmad Al Marzuqi. Right, so Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by them and by their knowledge, inshallah, in both words. To where we have reached the explanation. On page 74, and on the explanation, right, so on the word al-wujud. Right, so on the verse, right, فَاللَّهُ مَوْجُدٌ قَدِيمُ بَاقِي مُخَالِفٌ الْخَلْقِ بِالْإِطْلَاقِ. And also Allah, so this verse, this entire poem, as is a recap, like this whole poem is Aql Awam. Is a first text that you will study when you begin to study traditional Islam, especially when it comes to Aqidah. Right? And when it comes to Aqidah, right, you this from the story behind this poem, you can read earlier on. So if you were here, the story is that this was given to Imam Ahmad Marzuqi by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his dream. Right, so he dreamt of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reciting this poem, right, to him, and then second time now he came to him in his dream again and told him to spread this poem to the masses. Right, so it's a poem on the traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the traits of the prophets, and on what we believe in as Muslims. So it's an entire poem, on the belief of, on the creed, on the aqidah of Islam. Right? And we believe that it came from Rasulullah to a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a wali of the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam Ahmad Marzuqi, one of the ulama, one of the scholars of this ummah, of Islam. And he's been around in this ummah for generations, right? For hundreds of years, he's been around. Right? So it used to be the first text people study, when it comes to aqidah. But unfortunately, now they have, in many places, they have removed it. And they have in fact removed the entire study of the traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 20 sifat. Right? So we know the 20 sifat that are compulsory, necessary in the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In many countries now, they have scrapped it. Right? They have removed the teaching of this. Right? Whereas to teach this is actually core. You must learn this 20 sifat. There's a reason why the ulama wrote them down. These 20 sifat, and memorize what they are and know what they are. Right? But unfortunately, in our zaman, they have removed it. From the syllabus in many places, and even in Singapore especially, they've removed it from the masajid, they've removed it from the madrasas, they've removed from the syllabus, in the weekend any syllabus. So Allahu Alam, why why did they do that? So why? It's just fitna, I guess. Fitna. It is like you go into the science of the end of times. It's a top-down approach on trying to destroy the aqidah of people. Right? So it is an intended approach. To destroy the aqidah of people, destroy the aqidah of the end of times, so they can easily lose their faith. Right? As in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, towards the end of time, people will lose their faith easily. So we're trying to revive this and bring this back to what the scholars, bring our communities back to what the scholars have laid out for us. Alhamdulillah. Right? So the first trait, right, is for Allahu mawjudun. Right? So the first trait is wujud. So when you think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I have a whiteboard, I will draw this right out. If you want to draw it, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's one trait. Okay. It's okay. I draw here, you always draw your finger. I draw in the air. So right now, Allah's one trait is Allah exists. I think this is one trait. All the other traits is an explanation of the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So of the 20 traits, the 19 traits is commentary on the first trait. It's your commentary. Okay? So there's only one trait we know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah mawjud. Allah mawjud. Allah exists. Full stop. So then the other traits tell you, how is this existence? How can we understand this existence? Right? So there's one main trait of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah mawjud. There is a God and He is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a creator and He is Allah. And no human being with some fraction of an intellect can deny that there is a creator. You have to be completely, unintellectual, not thinking. If you believe that there is no creator, how in the world did the entire creation come about? If there is no creator, where is it coming from? Subhanallah. Right, but we are living in a time whereby majority of human beings are moving into that kind of secular mindset. It's a secular mindset. Right? So and why do they go into that? It's not from intellect. It's not from reason. It's just from being preoccupied with the dunya. Full stop. There's only one reason why people disbelieve in God. That's it. Only one reason. Nothing rational, nothing logical, nothing intellectual. It is just nafs. The nafs is preoccupied with the dunya, and is obsessed with dunya, and therefore the nafs does not want to see beyond this dunya. So khalas. The nafs sees a material in front of it, and that's all it sees. That's all it knows. It sees money, it sees housing, it sees food, it sees car, it sees whatever. This is what the nafs sees, and nafs doesn't want to think deeper. Is there something else? And so, but the moment they think deeper, they will know there is something else. There has to be something else. And even our own experience as human beings, we know that our as human beings, right, we are multidimensional. Right? So anyone who says everything has to be physical, you don't know yourself. Don't you know yourself? Where's your mind? Your mind's not here. Your mind is, where's your mind? Your brain is here, yes. But where's your mind? Where is the mind? Do you know where's the mind? Allah says in the Quran, they have hearts, but they don't think. Allah says that. Right? So where are your emotions? When you feel emotionally hurt, where's that coming from? Right? Is it like, is the heart being cut physically? There's something happening in the heart, but you feel the hurt. Someone says something to you, and you feel the emotional hurt, and it can even show on the face, right? And it can have a physical effect on the body. Where's it coming from? Happiness. Where's it coming from? When you feel joy, where's it coming from? Just from our own human experience, we know a lot of things are not physical. A lot love, right? Not physical. They're not physical things. You don't know how to like, substance by substance or chemicals. Where? Where is what is this? We know there's an entire realm. There is an entire realm. And we also know about the dream world. And there's reality in the dream world. What happens to us when we go into a state of sleep and dreaming? What is going on? So up to now, our science has not touched anything. That is beyond the material realm, the physical material realm. They cannot understand what goes on in someone's emotions, what goes in someone's mind, what happens when you dream, and the reality of it. They can't. So from there, we know as human beings, obviously, there are other realms. The physical realm is only one realm. So obviously, there are other realms. So why is it so hard to understand that there is a creator? And that creator cannot be in this physical realm. He created the physical realm. He cannot possibly be inside the physical realm. Right? So subhanAllah, so the ulama, the scholars, right, they go from the first traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is wajibul wujud. Right? Allah is wajibul wujud. So Allah must necessarily exist, and there is no other way around this. There is no possible explanation for his entire world except that there has to be a creator. And that creator created, and he wants something from us. And this will come into our entire Islam of what is this, right? So the mind comes into an understanding there must necessarily be a creator. So what do we know about this creator? Okay, so now comes the 5 traits, and they're called sifat salbiyah. Okay, the first trait, which is that Allah wujud, Allah mawjud, that is called sifat nafsiyah, right? Nafsiyah. So you say, what can you tell me about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah exists. So what can you tell me more about Allah's that? That Allah is a being and He exists. Can you tell me about it? All I can tell you about it is that He exists. Allah exists. Can I say anything beyond that? I can tell you what He's not. Right? He's not like us. He does not have a beginning. He doesn't have an end. Right? He is not dependent. So I can tell you what He's not. Right? I can't tell you more about His that. All I know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He exists. That's what I know. That He exists. So if you draw like a chart, in the center, Allah wujud. Allah exists. You draw on the side, I'll draw on the whiteboard. On the side, right? The sifat that is called salbiyah. Salbiyah means negating. The negating sifat means Allah is not. There are 5. There are 5 things that we say Allah is not. So this sifat salbiyah, it removes from a human understanding any wrong perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You must remove it, because human beings naturally, human beings understand there is a creator. They know it. But because their only experience is themselves as human beings, they tend to ascribe to God what they know of themselves. That is why you have in Greek mythology, God having a wife, and they are gods fighting each other, and you have gods having families, and gods having children, and gods having envy with each other, and gods are like, because all they know is the human experience. So when they know there is a God, so they think, okay, God will be something like us. Like gods are like human beings. So they invent all this stuff. Same thing in time of Rasulullah, the Quraysh. The Quraysh, when they invented all these idols, right? The idols has lineage. Idols have lineage. The idols have, who is the father of this idol, and they see a form of nobility in our idol because our idol has higher lineage than your idol, because they're applying what they know in themselves onto their gods. Right? So for them, high lineage means nobility. So our idols have high lineage. And that is where Surah Ikhlas came from. Surah Ikhlas got Surah Ikhlas because Surah Ikhlas يخلص من اعتقاد الإنسان ما لا ينبغي ما لا بحق الله تعالى. So Surah Ikhlas, it actually purifies from the belief of a human being what is unbecoming for us to ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why it's called Surah Ikhlas. Because Ikhlas means it cleanses, it wipes away, it scrubs away. Because human beings tend to have a wrong perception of Allah, of God. Because we only know our experience. It's the same thing with later on, after the 5 sifat salbiyah, I'm going to go through all them one by one because it's in the poem. Then you have 7 sifat, ma'ani and ma'nawiyah. Right? So these 7 sifat, so now this is how you're going to do it, okay? Right, center is sifat nafsiyah, right? That which is wujud. Allah wujud. Okay, Allah exists. So what can you tell me about Allah's existence? I can tell you 5 things that He is not. Right? And then it's called salbiyah, which means negating. So negating traits, there are 5 of them. Okay? And we're going to go through all 5 of them. Basically, to say all in one go, Allah, there's no beginning. Allah has no end. It's all the no traits. Like no. It's not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can never be. So Allah has no beginning. Allah has no end. Allah is not like His creation. Allah is not dependent. And Allah is not numerous. Okay? So you remove from your understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all these 5. Like no beginning, mustahil, cannot happen. There cannot be a beginning. And they'll go into the proof of, logical proof of why God has no beginning. It's not possible for a being to be called God if that being has a beginning. Not possible. Mustahil. Right? And it's not possible for a being to be called God by the definition of God. And when you define something to be God, automatically they cannot have these 5 things. Automatically. So anything that human beings find to worship, right, if this thing has any of these 5, it's not God. Right? So if the things, for example, they worship trees. Trees have beginnings. Trees have ends. Right? Trees are like the creation because they are creation. Or we they worship cows. Like cows have beginnings. Cows have ends. Right? Maybe they worship stone. Stone has beginnings. Stone has an end. I know the stone can be destroyed. Right? So anything that they worship Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Nabi Isa was born. And in fact, they celebrate the birth of Nabi Isa alayhi salam on Christmas. Right? So God cannot be born. If God was born, then if God, the definition of God is that He created, so He created Himself. How does that work? Right? So it cannot be. It cannot be. So these 5 sifat, these 5 attributes that are negating, they are necessary in our understanding of what or who is God. And Allah Himself teaches us this. So all human beings, you all know there is God. You know it in your soul because your soul met God. So every human being has in their heart, and Allah is fair, Muslim or non-Muslim. Every soul knows it has a creator because every ruh, every soul met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before it came into this dunya, and they made took an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So every ruh knows this. That is why there are people who are non-Muslim and they hear of the Quran and they know that it's the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And their hearts begin to shake and tremble because they know it, they can sense it. The ruh is aware, the ruh has been informed, and the ruh is seeking to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the calamity of our zaman, whereby people are denying the ruh. They deny the existence of the ruh, and they deny the needs of the ruh. And that is why human beings are in turmoil. Right? They're in all kinds of emotional stress and problems, all kinds of mental issues, all kinds of sins and destruction of the self. Why? The ruh is not being looked after. And the only way to look after your ruh is to feed on worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They must feed on ibadah. That is the sustenance of the ruh. Right? So right? So we understand, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, Allah is mawjud. From that one sifat, okay? So how does Allah not exist? He does not exist with a beginning, does not exist with an end, right? Because we exist. So we can't compare our existence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala existence, because we exist with a beginning. We exist with an end. Right? We change in our existence. We move from phase to phase. We go from dunya to barzakh to akhirah. We are going to, before dunya, there is the alam of the ruh. You were ruh at first, you came to the dunya, and then the physical body, you go to different developments as a human being, and you die, you transfer into a different realm in the grave. And so this is our existence. Allah is nothing like that. Right? Allah is the one who changes other things, but himself never changes. He's Allah, beginning to end, with no beginning, with no end. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So therefore, this third attribute that Allah is not like the creation is the most important attribute for us to understand. You cannot equate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to anything of your understanding as a human being. You cannot. And the beautiful thing is that we can't do that, yet we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's beautiful, mashallah. Like Allah is nothing, similar to any of our experienced human beings, but at the same time, He's the closest to us. So there is a beauty there that you don't know. How do we understand Allah without understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we know Allah is there. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. When you ask any human being, you ask any believer, how do you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists? And as a Muslim, I would say my answer is, of course, there is a logical argument behind it, but as a Muslim, my answer is, like, His existence is real. I know He exists because I have communicated with Him. He has communicated with me. Like, I have bonded with Him. Like, He's real. He's not imaginary. Like, He's not, some Allahu Alam, whatever it is. I know He's real because I have interacted with Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I know He's real. Right? So, I mean, as a believer. Right? So for me, like, there's no doubt. Because you interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and basically the strongest thing in the aqidah. Like, beyond the logical explanations of aqidah, the strongest thing you want to instill in your young, right, in yourself, in your children, your grandchildren, the strongest thing you want to instill in them is their connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ta'alluq billahi ta'ala. So no matter what anyone says to them, they will never leave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because they have a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes even logical explanation, when it comes to the nafs and emotions, it gets discarded. As you say, it's so logical God exists, so logical that He's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so logical that He is the only one true God. But when the nafs and emotions come in, people turn a blind eye. They don't want to believe in this. And in fact, mashallah, whenever I read all these stories of people who murtad, I tend to read all these stories. Right? When you read all these stories of people who murtad, right, they're murtad when they leave Islam. The only reason why they leave Islam is because either a nafs issue, right? They want something that Islam does not allow, so they murtad. They leave it. Right? So it's not logical. It's not rational. It's just nafs. It's nafs. They want what they want. The other one is they get upset with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So in their displeasure with Allah's decree, they get angry with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they turn away from God. So it's not rational, it's emotional. So a lot of people, when they have problems in their faith, in their religion, it's a lot of emotional problems, nothing rational, nothing logical. So if you know Aqidah, we do go from the logical side and the rational side. Most human beings, they go from the emotional side because we are largely emotional creatures. Right? Most human beings don't actually go into the logical, rational side. Right? But it's a bit hard right, to get your mind to go to delve into all these proofs and arguments whatsoever. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Right? They like doing this kind of stuff. But when you go through the emotions, right, the one who created you, the one who gave you, the one who provided for you, right, the one who loves you, the one who most human beings can relate to that. Right? So that there are two ways of approaching Aqidah. And so and for children, you can't go from the rational side. They're children, they're small. Their minds can only reach somewhere, right, in their understanding. So what do? Emotional. Emotional attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so from the people here, the Habaib here, mashallah, from a very young age, they teach love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one that gives you this rizq. It's Habib Abdullah bin Muslim Tahir. Whenever he would come home, and his brother Habib Tahir bin Muslim Tahir, right? Whenever they would come home as young boys and they were orphans, right? They had an auntie whose name was Kulthum, or Kulthum. Right? So their auntie, the Hawaba Kulthum, their auntie, right? She would, whenever they would come home from school, she would say to them, okay, if you all are hungry, make dua. Make dua that Allah gives you food. And she actually hides the food somewhere in the house. She makes the way she hides somewhere in the house. So they'll come home and they'll be like, okay, dua. Right? The Allah gives them food. Okay, now search. So it's how tarbiyah, one way of doing this. So they'll search the house and they'll think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala putting the food there. And then the story, I'm not sure if it's them or someone else. Similar story, whereby the mother would hide the food every day. So when the child comes back, the child will just make dua and then search for the food. So one day, mashallah, the mother went out. She left the food on the table and she went out to run some errands and she was held up. And she was thinking to herself, oh no, she's just going to come home and going to find the food right there. And know that it's the whole time she's been hiding the food. Mashallah. Right? And then she was like, he's going to know that it's just me hiding the food. Okay, so by the time she came back, she saw her child sitting on the table and eating the food. So she was like, where do you get the food? And he was like, oh, Umi, you know what happened today? I was on the way home from school and I was so hungry. So I made dua to Allah, don't hide the food today, please. So I cannot Allah. Give me don't hide the food today, please. It's pretty, but I'm very hungry. Just like that. What if the mother forgot to hide the food? MashaAllah. Allah is on the this. Allah, this dua is coming. The dua is going to come to ask for him not to hide the food. It's so hungry. And the mother will say, Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah. But MashaAllah, this is how they would have a ta'alluq, connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will do it in this way. Whatever they drink is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rain falling from the sky. And it's the teachings of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When there's rain from the sky, he will go out of the sunnah and expose his skin to the rain. He'll put up his sleeves and expose it to the rain. And then he was this is fresh from my Lord. How you will say, fresh from the oven. This bread is fresh from the oven. So the rain fresh from my Lord. Fresh from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, barakah. Barakah in the rain. In fact, in Tarim, they will collect rainwater and drink it as a shifa. They will use it for cure, rainwater, because it's barakah. It's a blessing from the sky. They will like, rain, but here you will see them rejoice, rain. They will rejoice in the rain. MashaAllah. And for us to understand, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so he is the biggest, our greatest teacher in regards to Aqidah. Not a single movement that he does, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except that he remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he sees the moon, and he says, the moon, your Lord and my Lord is Allah. And what kind of human being is that? Every single tiny thing in your life, you just see Allah wherever you. You remember Allah so very good. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is where we learn how do we teach Aqidah. From the Sahaba, I mean, saying, oh, I'm hungry. Alhamdulillah, ya Allah, I'm hungry. Alhamdulillah, ya Allah. Like the continuous conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout his life. MashaAllah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is someone who has a ma'iyya ma'Allah. And they're always together with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a state to be in. It's a state to be in. And when you reach that kind of state, that's why Aqidah really goes a lot into your bond, your connection, your interaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you fail to teach this to yourself and your children, then with that weak bond can be attacked very easily. So when someone comes in and says, there can't be a God in the world, there's too much, violence, too much oppression, too much this, too much that. The same argument, these people there for generations up to today, right? Same argument. But subhanAllah, if a person, a child, since they were young, they've been communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After every salat, talk to Allah. Sit down and talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many Muslims, unfortunately, don't know how to talk to Allah. Just talk to Him. What was Rasul doing in the cave? What he was doing? He was talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So as Muslims, right, from a very young age, learn to talk to Him all the time. And that is when, as you grow older, no matter what your problems, you have one very direct solution. Talk to Him. Whether you're on your menses or not on your menses, talk to Him. Be, on your, it's good to be in wudu and pick rak'ats and then talk to Him. And if you can do that, but if you're on your menses at any point in time in your life, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's the great examples in his life, throughout his life, in happiness and in sadness. In every moment, he cries out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Happiness and sadness. At Ta'if, he ran away from the people. Sure, Ya Allah, I complain to you of my own weakness and of how low I am in the eyes of people. And sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he saw like, maybe it's because people don't take me seriously, because I'm someone who's a nobody to them. They're not listening to me. Right? So he's in the lowest state of his life. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wife passed away, his uncle passed away, people are rejecting him. Makkah is a dead end, no one's believing anymore in Islam. He went to Ta'if, they abused him. He was his lowest of his low. And by his own words, he said, that was the lowest of my low. Sayyidina Aisha asked him after the Battle of Uhud, Ya Rasulullah, have you faced a day that was more severe on you than the day of Uhud? Have you faced a day that was so for you than the day of Uhud? And he said, yes. I faced that day at Ta'if. That was worse than Uhud. Right? So by his own words, there was the lowest point in his life. And what did he teach us about? You turn and you complain and you cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by whatever, in a sense, from his point of view, everything is going wrong. Everything. The mission is not continuing. Like people are not listening. Even children and slaves are throwing stones at him. Like his wife's not around anymore. Like you see, wife could go wrong, has gone wrong. SubhanAllah. But he taught us at the end of his dua, Ya Allah, if you are not displeased with me, I don't care. Right? As long as you are not displeased with me, I don't care what happens to me. Right? But I seek protection in the light of your countenance that illuminates the heavens and the earth. This dua. Right? So he taught us at the lowest point in your life, is Allah pleased with you? Ask yourself, are you in sin? Are you in ma'asiyah? If you're not, alhamdulillah. Whatever you're going through, alhamdulillah, you are not in ma'asiyah. And ma'asiyah is the worst state. Right? Can be anything. The whole family can die. In Palestine, right now, the entire families. I was talking to my husband, I'm like, can you imagine, waking up in the morning and you're the only one left in your family. It's so difficult on those who are alive. Right? And you can see the videos now online. Like every single member in their family gone. And just wake up in the morning to say that. In Singapore, one of my husband, this person, this happened, I think, a few weeks ago. This lady, she was pregnant. She's pregnant in Singapore. Her husband and son, I think he's 9 or 10, got into a motorbike accident. Both passed away. So I said to her, I said to my husband, I can't imagine being in her place. Like, you have a family, they were showing her family, her whole family pictures and during Eid and so on. Her husband, son, and then pregnant. Can you imagine it? Like today you have your whole family, tomorrow you're alone. Like nobody around you. Like subhanAllah, like really, really, that also happened to Rasulullah. Like he has his wife with him, and then she's not there anymore. It's very hard. But he taught us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ta'alluq billah. And it's the strongest thing in Aqidah. Right? That this entire falling in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that He's always there for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one constant in your life. Right? Everyone can come and go. People come, they go, they disappoint you, they leave you, and they die. And this is what people do. This is what happens to human beings. But your constant is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you can place it in these children when you're young, that no matter what happens, whether I'm there or I'm not there, I'm not your constant. Allah is your constant. So the best thing you can do for them is to connect them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way also that when they do commit sin, right? When they do commit sin, they know that they run to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you can't stop, human beings from falling into sin. They will fall into sin. We're human beings. And so you can't, in a sense, inspire the children, make sure they don't commit sin or whatsoever. They're human beings. They can't fall. They can't commit sins. Right? But as long as they know, when that happens, you have a merciful, forgiving God. And you know in yourself to run to Him and make tawbah to Him without telling me. It's you and Allah. You handle your affair with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what we want in Aqidah. Instills very strongly in them, inshallah. Right, so I'm going to the first. So the five at the side, right? Salbiya, so what is negated from Allah's traits. Then the seven is called Ma'ani and Ma'anawiyah, right? The seven here is what we understand about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just by the words of it, but we don't understand the reality of it. Which are seven, Allah sees. So we know Allah sees, we have no idea at all anything besides the word see. So you can't even say how. There's no how for Allah. There's no how. You just say Allah sees. Allah sees. Full stop. Allah sees. Allah basir. Allah basir, Sami'un basir. Allah sees. You can say how does He see? There is no how. What does He see? Everything. Right? Everything, including what you don't know, can be seen. Right? What can you know cannot be seen? Things that could possibly happen that is not decreed. Can Allah see these things? Yeah, He can. So can Allah see all the different possibilities in your life? Yes, He can. He knows. So not only that is His knowledge limited to what's going to happen, His knowledge also extends to what could have happened. And so Allah knows every single scenario in your life. So had you married this person, or had you married that person, or had you, been born in this era, have you been born in that era? Allah knows every single possibility for your ruh. MashaAllah, unlimited possibilities. And from there we understand as Muslims, Allah gave to every ruh what is the best circumstance for that ruh to excel in its worship and slavehood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So in your ruh right now, the best for your ruh right now, and Allah knows this, is that you are female. Because in two genders. Allah knows that the nature of your specific ruh, you will excel as a female. Than as a male. Maybe other people's ruh, they will excel as a male. So Allah created that ruh in a female body. Right? Because you will excel in your worship and your slavehood as a woman. So we don't question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our gender. Allah give it to you. Allah knows that your ruh will excel in this era. Not that you're like, oh, if only I was born in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we all wish that, alhamdulillah, we all wish that. If only I could go back to that zaman and see the Sahaba and climb on the house and sing Tala al-Badru alayna. We all want to experience that. But Allah knows that maybe if your ruh was in that zaman, you might just go with the flow and just join the kuffar, maybe. You don't know, right? You don't know. You just don't know. And Allah knows to be in your ruh in this zaman, you will be stronger in your iman. Because in that zaman, there was Abu Jahl. In the zaman, there were a lot of people in Mecca who did not want to break away from society. And they were the majority. In Mecca, it was difficult to break away from the majority. Right? You don't know if you were in that zaman, will you just follow the flow, go with the flow? Right? Or will you break away like Sayyidina Bilal and Sayyidina Suhaib and all the great Sahaba who had no fear to break away? How will your ruh be? Don't know, right? Even in this zaman, this to break away from the norm. How many people are able to break away? People going around showing off their taking off the hijab, people going around dressing like everybody else, and they're Muslims. They're unable to break away. They cannot. Just in the dress, they can't break away. So can you imagine if you're in a society whereby the majority are enemies of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and people are afraid to enter into Islam. And maybe Allah Alam how our soul will be. So whatever you are in right now, and that's our iman, our aqidah is that Allah chose this circumstance, even your race, where you were born, the country you're from, all of this Allah knows of all the different possibilities that is best for you. Right? To be born in Japan, or born in China, or born in Singapore, or born in Tarim, or born in, that Allah knows this is the best for you right now. Right? Subhanallah, mashallah. And that is the extent of Allah's, there is no limit to what He can see. So when we speak about the 7 traits, and all we know about these traits is the meaning of the word. Right? So Allah sees, we know what see means. Right? But we have no clue what it means to the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We only know what see means in our experience. What does see mean for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Inshallah, there is a definition. But we can't go there. We can't go there. Allah hears. Allah hears. Allah speaks. Allah knows. Knowledge for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is powerful. Allah is powerful, and Allah wills, and Allah is willful. Allah will will for things to happen. Right? Then how many? 6, 6. And the last one, right, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alive. 7. So these are 7 traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, extend for us His existence. So it is for us to understand. Right? So Allah exists, but I don't know how to work with this. Okay? 7 traits that you can work with. What do you may work with? I know Allah is alive. So when people die around me, I have Allah. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq showed that the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he said that those of you who worship Muhammad, they know that Muhammad is dead. And those who worship Allah know that Allah is alive and will never die. Right? So the 7 traits, they're called ma'ani traits. They help us interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah sees. So it comes in 2 ways. Allah sees me when I commit sin. So it puts in me fear to not commit a sin. Another way, Allah sees what has happened. Allah knows if I was wronged. Allah knows what happened between me and these people. For example, someone slandered you, or someone did bad to you, or oppressed you. And there was this huge fitna. And no one believes you, for example. Yeah, Allah sees. Allah sees. Enough for you. It's a comfort. Allah sees, Allah knows. Enough for me that Allah sees what it is. Ya Allah, you handle the affair. You handle what's going on. I'm not going to, I'm at a loss, for example. Right? Allah hears. Allah hears all to us. This is how we interact. So these 7 traits help you interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 5 earlier traits, the one that are negative traits, they remove from your mind what you cannot ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's haram to think of these things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 7th one is more of to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So, and also to have fear. Allah hears, right? Allah says in the Quran, Allah hears their whispers in the night. Allah hears their plots and their plans in the night. Allah knows what they're going to do and what they plan to do with Rasulullah. And Allah says, and they plan, Allah is planning. Allah is the best of planners. So you can't, all these things, it brings in taqwa to a human being. Allah speaks. So that Allah speaks tells us Allah has informed us. Allah will teach us. And Allah's speech comes in the form of wahyu. It comes in the form of ilham. And ilham as well, inspiration. So wahyu for prophets, revelation. For normal human beings, including animals, is called ilham. Allah inspires in them. How the animal knows where to find its food, and how the animal knows how to build its house. Right? All of this is from where? Ilham. Ilham from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's inspiration. Right? So Allah teaches them that is His communication. And sometimes, as Imam Ghazali mentions in Al-Abidin, on Tuesdays, we take this with Haba, I should. In Minhaj Al-Abidin, Imam Ghazali speaks about 4 whispers that happens in a human being. There are 4 main whispers. First whisper we know about it, Shaitan. He whispers, and Shaitan's whisper, he comes in many ways. He's very creative, Shaitan. And he will whisper for you to do bad things at first. If it's not working, he'll whisper for you to do good things, and he will destroy the goodies. Right? So say, okay, wake up for tahajjud. When you wake up, hey, you're so great. You're so amazing today. Wow, mashallah. Especially mashallah. But you say, wow, look at you. Right? So he will whisper this kind of thing, right? To make you, to destroy your deeds. So Shaitan, he has a variety of business. Then second whisper is the nafs. Of Imam Ghazali, So Imam Ghazali says the nafs. The nafs is straightforward whispering. Sleep, eat. More or less. The nafs. Eat more, sleep more. Eat more, sleep more. You are so sleepy, you are so hungry. You want to eat this, you want to eat that. The nafs is straightforward, not creative. Just one point. They want something, they want it. Full stop. Again, not creative at all. Shaitan very creative. He'll come from everywhere to try and get you. So if you see that the whispers keep changing, he says his work lah. If he tries one direction, not working, try another way. Not working, try another way. Not working, try another way. Not working. He will change. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Nafs, not creative. Nafs only one must get. Stop. One must get. Right. But nafs can be trained. Then the third whisper is a whisper of the angel. Right. So every human being, as we have a shaitan following us around, and everybody has qarin. Qarin is a shaitan, a jinn following you around to whisper to you. Everyone has an assigned shaitan. And so Iblis is on his so he has all of his duriyat, Iblis, right? He has all of his descendants. And whenever new descendants come for Iblis, he will assign the shaitan to a human being who is just born. So every newborn has an assigned shaitan. But Allah is fair. With every newborn, with an assigned shaitan, they have an assigned angel as well. So when you see in cartoons, right, when they have the shaitan out here and there's an angel out here, they whisper to the character in the center. It's actually true. Right? In the hadith, it's true that every human being has an angel called Ilham. The name of the angel is called Ilham. And the name of the shaitan is called Qarin. So all of us have, this shaitan and this malaika, right, following you around. So this angel, straightforward also. This angel is just, it will only ever whisper goodness. Only ever whisper goodness, right? Whisper, they say, why don't you pick 2 raka'ats more of sunnah? We have time. That's the angel talking. We have time, right? You don't have anything going on right now. Pick 4 more raka'ats. Come on. You can do it. Right? Allah is fair. Shaitan whispering to you, angel whispering to you. So you have these 2, whispering to you. 4th whisper is Allah. It's from Allah. And this 4th whisper is usually a whisper that, you can go 2 ways, that will change your life completely. This 4th whisper, right? Allah will put something in your heart and say, take that option. 2 options that are both okay to do. He will say, do this. He has something great in store for you. Right? So that kind of whisper. It's from Allah. It is called, Ghazali calls it it's like a gut feeling Allah puts there because it will change your destiny. And that kind of whisper also has a form of istidraj, which is that if somebody is so persistent on sin and so arrogant about it, then Allah's whisper on that person brings them to more and more and more and more dunya, more and more sins, and they have more and more arrogance. They actually get worse and worse. So the whisper can go 2 ways. Right? Depending on how you interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's very hopeful and very scary. So that is why you have awliya, who they are in their previous life or before when they were younger, they were in sin. Like Sayyidina Fudail bin Iyad, for example. Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar. So great awliya who were sinners. But there is a whisper in their heart that suddenly they just changed themselves all over. They made full tawbah and they came on the power of being a wali. And so the Fudul bin Iyad now. And this is different than like if someone gets a dream to change them. That is the same, but that is clearer. So in a dream, like Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar, he had a dream. And in Ramadan, he had a dream whereby he saw the day of judgment and like, and all those things. Sahabah, yeah, let's stop. Like, but Fudayl bin Iyad, right, sometimes it is just like an occurrence in the heart. Like the example that happened gave during his talk in Malaysia about, the highway robber, right, who was fasting. He was fasting. So he kept something that he would do, of ibadah. So when the Shia said to him, why is he fasting? And you're the chief of the highway robbers. And you're fasting, a sunnah fast. And he just said, I keep a link between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe Allah might save me by this link. Yeah. And when he said that, Allah saved him. So Allah put in his heart, enough. Enough what you're doing. Enough. Leave this life. Like Fudayl bin Iyad, same thing. He was climbing a house to rob the people in the house. He was climbing. And then Allah caused for the person in the house to recite an ayat. That ayat means, has the time not come for those who believe that their hearts tremble in the remembrance of Allah? So while he was climbing, one robbed the house, the robber, and the ayat came, and Allah caused the ayat to pierce his heart. Enough, ya Fudayl, enough. Right? And he could not continue with his robbery. He walked away in the full tawbah of the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that called, whispers from who? Allah. Allah does this. And it will change your life completely. Subhanallah. But sometimes like you wanna marry someone. Then this thing in your heart says, no, this person. Not this one, this one. Right? Unless your heart, you say you wanna go for this job. Then something in your heart says, especially Sahara. Sahara is much very, very clear. Right? So in your heart it says, no, don't go for this job. Don't. And when you go there, something happens in that job that transforms your life. Or you meet someone who transforms your life. Or you hear someone, subhanAllah. There are things that happen. For me personally, in my life, the biggest change was when my mother, she had 2 books for me on my birthday. I think I was 18 or something, 19. She bought 2 books. And she said, choose one. Right? And I was looking, one book was a Sirah book. And I love Sirah books. And the other one was Purification of the Heart. Hamza Yusuf. So I was like, So then, but in my heart, I said, that one. Right. So when I picked up that one, I went to search the Sheikh. When you search the Sheikh, you find the Sheikh. And he had a full class on it. And the class, Purification of the Heart class, changed my entire life. The class. Right. But instead, there is this whisper. The whisper says to you, do this, do that. Don't do this. Right. So like I think when I came to was my husband, and then the whisper came to him, why don't you go study? Like, just it was some thought. Just go. This whisper coming from stay. Allah something. Right. So these are whispers, and they are big whispers. And when you go through your life, you look back, yeah, it actually began with a small whisper that changed my life. Mashallah. It is all the whisper from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was something Prophet comes. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. So inshallah we'll continue from there next week. I'll leave the class open so the Hawa Couch is continue with the class. Inshallah. Okay, you can stay online, inshallah. Tamam. I'm going to kick off just now. Okay, Bismillah.